Anastasia, and thank you. And thank you once again for organizing this meeting. And I can just assure you, you're in safe hands when Anastasia is organizing something. So yeah, so I look forward to listening to you as we move along as well. I just wanted to say that we are also proud of being part of this event together with NUK, which is our long-standing partner when it comes to business promotion between our two countries. And also with IOM as well, which is one of our favorite humanitarian partners as well. So I would just like, first for maybe you don't know what Norway is doing to support Ukraine. So I was just wanted to tell you some few words about that and also how we are working. But before that, I would also like to say that I think, yeah, there is no doubt, and probably Anastasia could also acknowledge that Norway supports your fight against the Russian aggression as well, and that you Ukrainians, you continue to inspire us, all of us, with your resilience, will, and courage. So that's at least what you're doing on the ground is impressive. And yeah, Kyiv is still one of my favorite towns. So, and I also am honored just to be here today to tell you how we are supporting Ukraine as well. So far, Norway has allocated 1.4 billion euros to support Ukraine. Along three main pillars, which is humanitarian, where IOM is one of our partners here. And also, we're also doing it with other partners as well, like UN organization, like different humanitarian actors. And now we are also currently looking to how to respond to Ukrainian needs in the energy sector. And the second pillar is our support, financial support through our partners like the World Bank, EBRD, and we also help Ukraine to purchase gas this winter. And the third pillar is most important for you. It's also the military support that Norway is providing to Ukraine. And we have been committing ourselves to support Ukraine in a multi-year perspective. So actually yesterday, our government proposed this package to support Ukraine, which amounts to 75 billion Norwegian kroner over the next 5 years. So our hope is that it will help Ukraine to safeguard its territory and people against the Russian attacks, and also help to evaluate suffering, enable Ukrainians to maintain critical social function in your society. And of course, the Russian full-scale invasion has changed how the embassy work, but also, yeah, it can't be compared to consequences you have had, of course. But our work keeps being unpredictable and impeded by the changing security situation and with this frequent alarm and power outrage like you also are experiencing. And one of the embassy's most important tasks is actually to assess the Ukrainian needs and the consequences of war. And we are, for example, in close contact with the humanitarian actors while they are scaling up the response and reaching the most vulnerable and looking into how Norway might help in the recovery of Ukraine. And bringing different partners and institutions together is also part of important work. So getting IOM to partner up with NUK, as you're doing today, is one of examples. And I hope that NUK might be to prove a relevant partner for you as IOM and Entrepreneurship Export Promotion Office has helped you so far as well. And recently actually joined IOM for a trip outside Kyiv to have a look at their work on the ground, where I also had the possibility to meet some of the internally displaced SMEs. And I didn't only see the value of the IOM's work, but also an important relevance of the SMEs and the role they play in the Ukrainian society. And from my travels, both from north of Kyiv and in the newly liberated areas east, such as Kharkiv, I've seen the indescribable consequences of war, where people's livelihood has been torn apart and basic infrastructure such as water, heating, and electricity is still lacking. So the recovery will sure be a challenging time. At the same time, it gives new opportunities for building back better and solving existing challenges. I therefore believe that the private sector's engagements in Ukraine is a precondition for a successful, but also for a sustainable rural recovery in Ukraine, such as you represented here today. So before ending, I would just like once again to thank IOM and NUK for organizing this and then the next upcoming webinar for Ukrainian SMEs, which will hopefully prove to be a good meeting space to learn about the Norwegian market and potential export opportunities for you. So over to you, Anastasia.
Thank you, Alexandra. It's a pleasure to cooperate with you. We always, before the full invasion, we used to have trips to Ukraine with Norwegian businesses, and we used embassy as a meeting point. We also involve embassy in many other projects and activities, and it's always been like a very close cooperation, and we appreciate it a lot. But this event wouldn't have happened without our other partner on the other side, IAM, which is represented by Katarina today. Katya, can you say a few words maybe about how this happened and how you work with SMEs today?
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, both Anastasia and Alexandra. It's really a new friendship, a new partnership that we are nurturing, and we're very happy about, because I think it came about naturally. It's not forced, but I think there is really a lot of things that we jointly can do together better, and that's the best added value for me of this partnership. I'm very happy to see this event happening. Our project that first, of course, I represent IOM, and this is one of the UN agencies working in Ukraine. We have both humanitarian and development arm, and we work in Ukraine for more than 25 years now. And with the war that started, the full-scale war that started last year, we largely expanded our work. And one of the projects that we launched in the beginning of the last year is the project called SME Boost, that is supporting IDPs integration and recovery of the business in Ukraine. And we're very happy that amidst the collapse of the systems, the human tragedy, the destroyed economy, increasing unemployment, we managed to launch, not strictly speaking, humanitarian project, but to launch and successfully implement the project that supports country economic recovery. Through the project, we do provide financial grants, and the participants of this event are grantees of our program, as well as enterprises with whom our another partner, Office for Export and Entrepreneurship Support, work. We are very happy that there is so much interest to export, and I think we worked with the livelihood programming for almost a decade in Ukraine, but it's probably the first time we see the interest in export being so evident and so pronounced. And I think that shows us that there is, again, a lot of things we can do in this regard. And while this event is rather small, and we are, again, piloting this approach, piloting this format, we will make it available thanks for the support from Business Dia. It will become available online for everybody interested. And again, as Sophia already mentioned, we hope it will become just the first in a series of different events where interested businesses can participate. But for now, I just want to thank again Embassy of Norway for initiating this connection, Anastasia for a wonderful beginning of a partnership. Of course, additionally, I must mention the government of Germany that funds the SME Boost project, which we implement, and our partners from the government side, the Ministry of Economy and the Office for the Export and Entrepreneurship Support. But most of all, I think I want to put the emphasis on the small and micro business. I really think that in a turbulent times that we all live in, it's quite important to see that the life continues despite hardships, that the business continues despite we all understand what enormous challenges every, especially small enterprise faces every day and many times during the day. I think it's very, very important to ensure that Ukraine economy continues functioning, and to ensure that people in Ukraine, their IDPs, everybody can continue living. So thank you very much, and very much looking forward to this and the next events.
All right, thank you so much. I hope that there will be more companies joining us. If not, we will make a recording available online, as Katarina mentioned. We are also meeting next week, next Tuesday, the same link, the same time, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Norwegian market or Norwegian customer and consumer behavior in Norway, just to help you to understand a little bit more whom you can sell your goods and services to, and how to do that. But today we'll talk a little more about the Norwegian market in general, like who are the potential business partners in Norway, where to find them, and some entry points, and maybe some we'll brainstorm together some ideas how you could expand to this market. And before expanding to the new market, I think it's very useful to have instruments and know about institutions that can help you to do that at home. And we are very happy to have you, Andrei Litvin, who is Deputy of the Office, Entrepreneurship and Export Promotion Office, who joined us today just to give a brief explanation how your office functions and how you can support small businesses and how you can help them to export and expand to the foreign market. Andrei.
Thank you, Anastasia, for the short introduction. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear business representatives. It's a pleasure to be here. And first, I would like to thank Norwegian partners for the huge support, military and humanitarian, which is provided to Ukraine. It's highly needed, extremely needed nowadays. So basically, about our institution, we are working. We are in Kyiv, so everything is good. Export is highly needed, and I'm glad that such kind of events are provided for the Ukrainian companies, because after the huge migration of Ukrainian people, the demand of the products and the services in Ukraine extremely decreased. And we see it based on our surveys, which we are providing once in a month or 2 months. So this is one of the important questions for the Ukrainian government nowadays, because export is the one solution to survive for Ukrainian companies. And I think for the next 1 or 2 years, for 100%. So what we are doing now and how we can help Ukrainian businesses, small and medium sized, and also the part of our client is a huge businesses of Ukraine, because they suffered as well. We are providing a lot of different services. First of all, I would like to tell that when the war began, we opened the offline office in Warsaw to help Ukrainian refugees. So this is the office which provides such kind of services like consultancy. They help to find job, apartment, to open new business, to also to start export if they're representatives of Ukrainian companies as well. We have also some offices in Ukraine, because we are realizing the project called Dia Business. Probably heard about it. This is the part of Dia ecosystem. And this project is realized with the partnership of Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. So we have 12 offline offices in regions. Some of them are not working, because one in Kharkiv, one in Mykolaiv, also one was in Bucha, destroyed. So it was rebuilt, and now it's working again. There, for example, Ukrainian companies could find some help consultancy to participate in educational events. But talking about export activities, there is a huge demand on educational. So in a partnership with the Estonian Marketing Institute, we are providing long-term courses for Ukrainian exporters or just entrepreneurs who would like to start export activities. One of such, before the war started, we had 4 courses. This is like 8-9 months courses with the foreign experts. And during the war, we started one more called Export Academy for people who would like to start export. So we had only like 250 places for this course, but we have received more than 700 applications during 2 weeks. So the demand is really high. And also we are providing like short webinars with the government representatives or some experts. If companies from different sectors have issues or questions to be solved, so we could organize like such kind of B2G platform with the government representatives to talk about these issues, questions. Like at the beginning, the main question was the financial support and logistics. Talking about financial support, we understood that this is the first issue for the Ukrainian companies, the first problem, the main problem. So with our partners, we provided such a service called Financial Marketplace. On their business website, you can find more than 300 offers from different institutions, banks, government institutions, international donors, project of technical support with financial help. It could be like credits, it could be leasing, it could be just financial support without any like, you don't have to return the money as well. You could prove that you provided the project of the grant. So this is all located in one platform, and you can see it. Also, we are providing analytical and consulting support for Ukrainian companies. We understood that now, due to the sanctions on Russian Federation and the Republic of Belarus, we can find additional niches for Ukrainian companies. So we received some access to the databases where the Russian Federation producers and the producers of the Republic of Belarus exported their products. And now we're analyzing those databases to provide the Ukrainian companies information about the export markets, so the Ukrainian companies could just fill in into these niches. Few like overviews we already made. The overall overview about the export activities, and also, for example, for furniture sector. Tomorrow we'll represent for the agriculture. It's also will be in a offline format here in Kyiv as well in online, and it will be uploaded to our website, export.gov.ua. Moreover, if any company or association or the group of companies have a request of help to find some focus market where they will be competitive with the local companies or as well foreign companies, we can help with that, because we have some access to the Euromonitor database, to the Statista, to the Mintel. So this is quite expensive databases that you could provide such an analytics and recommendations as well. And I think the main activity for the Ukrainian companies, it's a partner search. So here we can help in different ways. The first one, international exhibitions. Due to the war, we started to communicate with the international exhibitions organizers, and they started provide some discounts or some spaces even free of charge. We had such cases. For example, the Innotrans exhibition in Germany, the organizers provided fully free of charge space and booth building. So this is a huge help from their side, and this is a great opportunity for Ukrainian companies to represent themselves and to find some like business leads, potential partners, because from our experience, exhibition is the most efficient way to find a new customer, a new client, and then sign the contract. We have a lot of success stories during the war. That even when a company participated the first time at the exhibition, they signed the contract. The last one was a week ago in Las Vegas, United States. We organized with the partners huge national pavilion at the furniture exhibition, and 3 companies signed the contract during the exhibition. So there are a lot of such cases, and the foreigners would like to support Ukrainian companies, and also they're learning more about Ukraine. Previously, the foreign representatives heard only about some corruption, about conflict with the Russia, etc., etc. Now everything is different, and it's a huge opportunity for Ukrainian companies to tell about the products, about the services, the whole world. And I highly recommend to participate in such kind of exhibitions. In a week, we are going to BioFach, the biggest organic exhibition in the world, then to the Euroshop exhibition. We are covering mostly all the costs of the exhibition. like in average, it's 80% of the exhibition. So it's renting space, it's building the booth. In BOFA, it's also a part, EBRD covers for the part of the company's logistics to the exhibition. So it's a great opportunity for Ukrainian companies. The second tool is trade missions. Nowadays, it's a little bit difficult to organize such kind of events with problems with electricity and also with crossing the border for men. It's also the main problem for us. I think in the near future, this problem will be solved, for example, for business representatives, because there will be no export without such an opportunity to cross the border in business cases. But also we are planning trade missions for IT sector, for furniture, as well for agriculture, mainly to the Europe, because this is the closest market and it's like the easiest way, even with the logistics. And the third tool is sourcing platform. So usually we have a lot of requests from the foreign partners to find Ukrainian supplier, reliable Ukrainian supplier. As a government institution, we could check the Ukrainian companies through Ukrainian registers and see if they have any problems with the law, with the taxes. Usually foreign buyers would like to receive such kind of information to understand if the supply is reliable and if they could work, because there are a lot of risks now to work with Ukrainian companies, and as we understand. And we have a lot of such requests. We are publishing them on our web portal. Any company could apply and have the same like opportunity with the customer, with the competitors on the local market. So it's open. You can apply automatically through the system, just upload the information about the company, some promo materials. We also had such a story with Danish Coop retail chain. And after such a request, 4 Ukrainian companies signed the contract and they're already in the shelves of the retail chain. So those are the main opportunities. As well, we have online catalog of Ukrainian producers. It was a huge problem at the beginning of the war to update this catalog, because some companies, they were located now on the occupied territories and their manufacturers were destroyed. Like probably heard about the company Chumak, well known, or there were some huge manufacturers destroyed, unfortunately. We updated this catalog, so you could also fill the application. We'll check the company, your company, and make it open. So open your profile for the foreign customers. This is also one of the opportunity, and in the near future we'll promote it through the target advertisement in foreign markets. And so yes, you can use it as any services I mentioned, they're free of charge. You just can right now. Unfortunately, I will not be able to participate till the end of the event, so I'll leave my contacts and the main information. You can write me directly, and we'll provide you any support you need.
Thank you so much, Andrei. It's a very necessary organization, institution that the office represents, and all the tools that you're helping the Ukrainian companies with. It's a very impressive. Seems like it's a lot of activities going on, and the need for your service is going to be higher and stronger in the future. That's for sure. From our side, so as Entrepreneurship and Export Promotion Office helps Ukrainian companies from Ukraine, we are the receiving organization in Norway. And I think that the next 20-30 minutes, I'll walk you through the format and that we work with through our projects, and also the instruments that we have, just for your understanding how we can be useful if you want to expand to the Norwegian market, or you already started looking and talking to some partners. After that, we'll take a short break, and after the break, we'll look more into the Norwegian market, and we'll share all the tips and tools and experience that we have from this bilateral cooperation. We're not that many people, but I see more and more people joining. So I also would like to ask you to write a few words about you in the chat, what company you represent, like what's your background, if you're already exporting to the foreign market, if you have any already questions to us about Norway and the bilateral cooperation with Norway, but don't forget to leave your email address. I think that each company is very unique. You're in a unique position with a unique product or a service. And then I'm not sure if we will be able to answer all the questions, but if you leave the question in the chat box with your email address, I think we'll be able to look into that and reply via email afterwards. We can also collect the most popular questions and present the answers next time on next Tuesday when we meet via the same link. But before we dive into what Norwegian Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce is and how we work, I would just want to see any hands or reactions or replies from people who are in Ukraine right now. So if you are in Ukraine, wave or push on any emojis. Yes, I see one hand. People are without their cameras. Yeah, I see some emojis. Good reactions. Yeah, so it's actually a lot of people, yeah, in Ukraine. Any of you, yeah, good. Any of you who are abroad, for example, in Poland or any other country in Europe? Anna Birta, you can wave. You're not in Poland, but you're in Oslo. Yeah, that's good. Yes, I see also a few reactions. All right, good. Any of you who has already started looking into the Norwegian market? Like, for example, trying to find a partner or participated in any event, or no reactions. Okay, good. So I hope that the information we will present today will be useful for you. Anyone who already started exporting to any foreign markets? Can be any neighboring country, or yes, we see a few reactions. Yeah, okay. So we'll see if there are some similarities or differences between those countries and Norway today. Also, we're not that many people, so if you have any comment or you want to speak up, so just raise your hand or let me know, and we'll give you the word. All right. If no questions so far, I think that I will share my presentation now. Let's see if I can make this work. Yes. So just a little bit about us, who we are and how we work. We bring business together for a sustainable future. We're a bilateral organization. We are registered in Norway. We're 6 people in Norway and 1 person representative in Ukraine. We're a non-profit, non-political membership organization. We have around 120 members, both from Ukraine, from Norway, working in different sectors and industries. And also we are supported by the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, mostly. We also get some membership fees from our members. And they are a little like 60, maybe 60% companies from Ukraine and 40% companies from Norway. If I'm not speaking, please put your microphone on mute so that wouldn't create any noises. Thank you so much. We actively work for the increased trade and bilateral and business cooperation between Norway and Ukraine. That includes all types of activities like that were mentioned by Andrei earlier today. So helping companies to come into exhibitions, organize trade missions. Mostly it's from Norway to Ukraine. And I feel like our primary or our main task is to mobilize the interest among Norwegians. The whole world is open for them. They look into different markets. So our job is to put Ukraine on their radar. So also mobilize their interest. The other task, of course, is to support our members. They all have ongoing projects and some business activities. So they have the different questions and we help them on the way. And we, of course, work for positive economic development in Ukraine. And that goes to all our activities in everything we do. We talk about good corporate governance, we talk about sustainability, business ethics, zero corruption, transparency, and so on. Our job is structured with projects, for example, IT and professional services. 30%, around 30% of the companies that we have in our chamber, they are from IT sector. It's either Norwegian companies who have offices in Ukraine or outsourcing some work to Ukraine, or Ukrainian companies who are looking into the Norwegian market or already got some Norwegian clients. We have also a project called Energy and Infrastructure. Norway has started some energy projects in Ukraine within the sustainable and solar and wind powers. So Norway has been a good friend of Ukraine since 2019, when they were among the biggest investors with the biggest share of foreign direct investments in Ukraine. And they are still present in the market and are not planning to leave. So we are helping them on the way with their ongoing projects. We have seafood and agriculture. This is mainly Anne Birte's area of interest and focus. We in Ukraine love Norwegian food. This is like the biggest driver of the Norwegian export to Ukraine. At the same time, Ukraine has a lot of potential within agriculture and agri-tech that we're looking into more now. It's a breadbasket of Europe. And of course, Norway should also look into that possibility in that cooperation with Ukraine. Manufacturing has been my focus area since 2019. This is one of the newest projects that we started, and that includes a lot. That includes many sectors. I see there's someone said that they can't hear you. Does it go for everyone, or is it just one person? If you can hear me, please wave or put some pluses in the chat so I can see that the connection is fine. Yes, I see some plus. Yeah, reactions. People can hear us. All right. So I think Anne Birte, you will help to restore that connection. Good. All right. Then we'll continue. Manufacturing has been. It includes different sectors. It's from everything from textile, furniture to steel constructions. I think that the trend since the start of the pandemic is to bring manufacturing closer home, and so Norwegian companies wants to bring manufacturing closer to their country, and then Ukraine has always been a great option, and with the potential of becoming a manufacturing hub, and it goes for both for doing some cooperation with Ukrainian manufacturing, also producing something under private label, and it has been successful, and we'll talk about that a little bit just in a few slides. And the last project that we started, that was maybe bad timing for that, is tourism. The first event that we had was in February 2020, just before the pandemic hit, but we still believe that there is a lot of potential for this cooperation between Norway and Ukraine, and we want to bring more Norwegian tourists to Ukraine, and I think that when the situation allows to do that, I think it will be a very popular destination for Norwegians, and that will also bring more business opportunities to the country. We organize Norwegian-Ukrainian Business Forum, so when there is like a high-profile visit from either Norway to Ukraine or vice versa, there is always something on the site for business. So we organize forums, networking meetings, delegations, and so on. And one of the programs and our project that we're very proud of is Young Entrepreneurs Program, and that's something that we'll talk about later. And I think that it's also something that can be for all of you, because that's where you learn about how the Norwegian-Ukrainian cooperation is going on, and then you get some tools and to expand your business, and some ideas and network and contacts necessary for that. So that's a little bit about how we work and how we are structured. Let's see if, how the here you can see how the bilateral trade has been so far. Here it's until 2021. You can also see that in 2019 there has been like a really good growth, and that's because of this yellow pillar. It's the foreign direct investments to Ukraine. Even though until 2021 the statistics goes a little bit down, so you can see -2%, but that's mostly because the foreign direct investments weren't that high as in 2019. If you look at the joint trade of goods, this is this blue pillar, and the joint trade of services, this is this yellow pillar, it increases, maybe slowly, but surely. So we believe that even after Ukraine's victory, it will skyrocket, and we should start already putting the ground and connecting businesses already now. This was until 2021, and here you can see a little bit more recent statistics where we compare 10 months of 2021 to 10 months of 2022. And you can see that the joint trade of both goods and services went down only 1%. And we think it's a very impressive result, taking into account the whole situation. That can be explained by different theories, and I think one of them is that traditionally Ukraine and Norway has never had a very strong cooperation in metals, like heavy metals, and this is a sector that has been affected very much in Ukraine. It's more, the trade is dominant by light manufacturing. Norwegians and Ukrainians also cooperate or Norwegians cooperate with Ukrainian companies that are located closer to the western border and also central Ukraine. And these are the factories that are still operating and delivering their orders. So it hasn't been, for the bilateral cooperation, it hasn't been that bad. It's still on the same level. And of course, the Norwegian seafood has been a big driver. We still continue buying Norwegian seafood in Ukraine. And the Norwegian seafood has also been a part of different humanitarian projects. So that's what keeps the statistics stable on the same level. Let's see. Yeah, here you can see that the 2021 was the record year for the Norwegian seafood. And I, as a Ukrainian living in Norway, of course, got my family members to Norway after February 2022. My mom has moved here, and during the first 2 months, she was so happy that she will be able to eat Norwegian salmon and Norwegian herring or saladits every day. So she went to the store, like during the first days she moved to Norway, she went to the store, bought Norwegian herring, and then made like this, like potato and herring, and then she said, you know what, Anastasia, Norwegian herring is much better in Ukraine, because here something is wrong with it. It's so much better in Ukraine. But that's also because it is a little bit different. The herring you buy in Norway is a little bit different from Ukrainian, Norwegian herring you buy in Ukraine. But it's still very popular, and I think that salmon is also increasing. And Birte can probably give you more information on that later on if we have time. But yeah, it has been a big driver. It's still, I think, on the same level as it was in 2020, maybe
more or less.
So 2022 was more or less the same as 2020 when it comes to the Norwegian seafood, but 2021 was absolutely the record year. When you look at the other group of products, like machineries and chemical products, they're still present. They look small, but they're not that small. It's just that the seafood is that big, so everything else in comparison will look small. So here a little bit, here is a little bit more recent statistics. So here you have 2021 compared to 2022, and you can see all this blue, this blue field. It's all the seafood. So when you look into that, you can see that in October 2022, the level was actually above the beginning of 2021. It of course crashes in February, March 2022, but it was supplemented by the humanitarian aid, and also the seafood slowly recovered and keeps recovering. So which is a good positive sign. When you look at the other side, the Norwegian imports of goods from Ukraine, you can see that it's much more diverse. So we have everything from food, wood, metals, textiles, skis. That's all the products that go from Norway to Ukraine. We also joke a little that maybe the Norwegian Olympic winners on skis, they're using Ukrainian skis or skis produced in Ukraine, and that's what gives them power and energy to win. So we are proud of that. And that this import is so diverse is good for us, for the statistics, but also for the Ukrainian manufacturing, because it shows that there is place for different products. There are niche products, so that gives hope and yeah, it gives hope to Ukrainian companies that they can also find its place on the Norwegian market. That also looks like that on the recent statistics when we compare 2021 to 2022. It's much more colors, so it's much more diverse and it's much more stable, because when there is one product that, I don't know, fails or disappears, there are many other products that keep the statistics stable. So as you can see, we like working with the statistics. The bilateral trade of services is also doing maybe even better than the trade of goods. It has been a slight decline in 2022 in the first 3 quarters, but compared to 2021. But 2021 was also a record year for the trade of services between Norway and Ukraine. Roughly 2/3 of this trade is IT services. So there are big Norwegian companies that buy IT services from Ukraine. There are also Ukrainian companies that have Norwegian clients. And it has been reported that since February 2022, Norwegians has been even more open to buy services from Ukraine. There are, of course, different other challenges, like Ukrainian companies moving offices to neighboring countries and so on. But if we look at the trade in IT in 2022, it was already, for first 3 quarters, it was already above of total level of 2020. So it's it has also been good for the service. Any questions so far? If there are no questions, I see that people are wrote some introductions in the chat, but not everyone. So please take your time and write it. I think for us, it's also very good to expand our network and then have these connections. As I mentioned in the beginning, we of course work mostly with Norwegian companies who, for example, typically would request us to find or suggest some Ukrainian companies for cooperation. So I think it would be also nice to see your profile, what you work with, and what service or product you can offer. All right. Another project that I mentioned before is this Young Entrepreneurs Program that we've been organizing since 2015. And I actually personally got involved with the Norwegian Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce through this program. This program happens every year, and the new application process will be open in March. Will be posted on our website. In this program, we take 10 Norwegians and 10 Ukrainians for 2 months. We divide them into 4 or 5 groups, and the groups get different tasks. For example, last year they needed to develop a market analysis within different sectors, and in that market analysis they would identify some potential, some opportunities for increased bilateral cooperation. For example, we had a group on manufacturing, and they were looking into what Ukrainian product can either be, or what Norwegian product can be manufactured in Ukraine, or what Ukraine can offer to the Norwegian market. For example, what factories are open in Ukraine, what goods are not being sold from Russia and Belarus to Norway, and what Ukrainian products could, for example, replace those those Russian, Belarusian products. So that's a very exciting program. I would say it doesn't matter if you have been working with the business for many years, or you have just a business idea, or you just started working. There is always something new to learn, because the focus is on the bilateral cooperation. So we meet with the companies who already have established some bilateral projects, who have been working on between Norway and Ukraine. We talk about different differences in business culture. We talk about different instruments. We have networking events. We visit companies. So it's a good start for you if you want to come to Norway. So we build this cross-border partnership through this program. The program usually takes place end of summer, beginning of autumn, and then it's for 2 months. So we have 2 intense weeks all together, one in the beginning of the program, one in the end of the program, and then groups work on different projects and tasks on distance. So it's a great chance to combine it with the work or with studies, or so you don't have to be present at the program all the time. So if you have any questions about this, please let me know afterwards. I've been a participant, I've been organizer of the program, so I can guide you through and then give you some tips what to put in your application, application when it opens. And it will open in the beginning of the spring. So follow us on social media. We'll use this opportunity to promote our social media. So follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and you will not miss a chance to apply if you're interested. Another direction that we're now moving is something to do with rebuilding of Ukraine. Ukraine is going to be the biggest construction site in the world, and we will need a lot of help from the international community. And we in our chamber believe that the Norwegian companies have competence to build back better with their technologies and the way how they see building, that it's sustainable, that it's accessible and mobile. So we just recently had the event in the end of January called Workitecture, and we're planning to have more activities. So if you're, for example, somehow involved in the building sector, furniture or architecture design, this is something that you should also follow and get involved. This is also a new direction for us. We haven't been working with that, but we're going to event called Rebuild Ukraine in Warsaw on the 14th and on the 15th and 16th of February, so next week. If you are planning to be there, so we can meet up. If not, we can keep you updated on any other activities that we have within this direction. One idea was also to create a study course based on Young Entrepreneurs format, where we look into different cases, like how to rebuild, like for example, case of Lviv, the internally displaced people, what is the best living accommodation for them, how to build back better and more environmental friendly, and how the buildings would be accessible for everyone. A case on Kharkiv, for example, how the security of big cities, how to live near the threat, or for example, Kyiv region, how the landscape decision can help countries that have very aggressive neighbors, let's put it like that. So this is something that we're going to work with, and if you're interested to get involved, also let us know and we'll keep you updated. Also, other initiatives that I would like to mention here that would be interesting for you. Rebuild Ukraine, already mentioned. This is a big rebuilding conference in Poland next week. In Ukraine, we have also Ukrainian Scandinavian Center. This is a center that was started by me and some of my colleagues in 2014 in Ukraine. This is more educational and cultural center. There you can learn different languages, Scandinavian languages like Norwegian and Swedish and Danish and Finnish, as well as a Nordic language. We also offer classes of Ukrainian to foreigners, so it's a good a good starting point if you want to learn a little bit more about culture, Scandinavian culture, to also use that knowledge later on in when you do the business with, for example, Scandinavian partners. Another member of ours that we have in our chamber is called Ellis Culture. This is the director of this company is Karin Ellis, who's been working with Ukraine for many years. She has developed her book. I will talk a little bit more about that later. The book is called Working with Norwegians. So it's more focused on how to have Norwegian colleagues, the differences with the working culture, unwritten rules in the society. And so it's a very good starting point also for you to understand how Norway functions and what are the norms that are not written not written anywhere in the contract. If you're planning maybe to open office, or I don't know, you have colleagues somewhere in Europe and they're planning to move to Norway, or you already have some friends in Norway, there is a program called Changemaker. It's organized by, there are a lot of organizers, but it's mostly for foreigners who move to Norway and want to start their business here, or open an office, or have an idea and don't know what to do, where to start. They have a theoretical course, they have a practical course, and it's also a good starting point for those who just moved to Norway, never been working here, don't know how the society functions and want to expand their network. So definitely a good program to check out if it's relevant for you. Yes, any questions? I see that people put more comments in the chat. This is really good. If you have any questions, and I know that, thank you so much. And I know that you all are wondering how to find a client and how to, I don't know, how to start exporting to Norway. And I must be honest with you that I think there is no magic formula to that. Every company is different in different position. And I think that moving into a new market, when moving to a new market, you might have a lot of questions, and that's why there are a lot of consultancy companies who get paid a lot to help you to find the answers to these questions. But if you have anything particular you're wondering about, you can also send it to us. We can look into that. I can tell you that so far we started receiving more and more requests from the Norwegian side. We have some active requests within my project manufacturing. I have active requests on a greenhouse building. So if you, for example, know someone and you are able to produce greenhouses, there is a Norwegian company that would like to buy it. We have requests for steel constructions. If you or you know anyone from Ukraine who can produce like small garage or a little bit bigger hall, steel halls, you can also let us know. But we kind of have this request once in a while, and I think it's then it's good that we have this description from you and your background, so we can see if there is maybe, and do some matchmaking if we have any that. Security seals. I personally don't have any like active requests on that, but as I said, you never know when they come. They can come whenever, and so it's good to have information about your company. Secures the object and commercial laws. Okay. No, I don't have any that in my manufacturing. Anna Birta, do you have anything in food production, like the active request?
Not now, but like you say, you never know when they come, and it's always good to know about who you are in case we get some requests.
If I remember correct, there were some requests on wine, Ukrainian wine, but we'll talk about food and wines just very shortly, how that functions and how to bring Ukrainian food and wine, or ideas how to bring Ukrainian food and wine to Norway. So that's it. I suggest we take 10 minutes break, before we dive into another topic about the Norwegian market, Norwegian customer, Norwegian business partner, where I will also share some ideas, some platforms and links to exhibitions that might be interesting for you. I will also show you a little trick how to find the Norwegian companies based on segments, and that's what I've been using when looking for potential partners for for Ukrainian companies. But before we do that, I suggest we take just a very, very short break. What time is it now? It's almost 2 o'clock in Norway, 3 in Ukraine probably. So I suggest 10 minutes break, and then we'll back at 3:10 Ukrainian time. If that sounds good. All right, people are nodding, so I think that sounds good. See you in 10 minutes. Norway. It's a very good country to be present on the market. A lot of countries and a lot of companies from the whole world look into this country because the purchasing power of Norwegians is very high. It used to be like top 10 in the world, meaning that when people want to buy something, they usually have means and resources to do that. That's why companies from around the globe want to be present on this market. You should remember that it's a country with a strong economy, but it's also a very small country, meaning that the purchasing power is high, but it's not that many people who can buy goods and services. It's only 5.4 million. Fun fact is that when I moved to Norway in 2012, we used to say that it's only 5 million. So now it's the population is growing, which is a good trend, and we're happy to see that. So the main industries are, of course, oil and gas. Norway is a major producer of oil and gas, and also it manufactures equipment and components for the oil and gas industry. So it's a significant contributor to the economy. Shipping and maritime, offshore shipping, shipbuilding, and everything connected to this industry is huge in Norway, as well as fishing and fish farming. As we looked at the statistics between Norway and Ukraine, this is something that also plays a very vital role in our bilateral cooperation. And fish farming is also something that has potential for increased bilateral cooperation between Norway and Ukraine, and something maybe Anne Birte can also tell you more on. Ukraine could become a country that produces and sells some components for fish feed. If we have time later on Anne Birte, I will ask you to elaborate more on that. Information technology, it's a lot of startups. The ecosystem for startups is good in Norway. There are a lot of governmental programs that support startups and this information technology development. Paper production, so wood and paper. Norway has a long history of forestry and paper production. And Elopak, that is present in Ukraine, it's a Norwegian company, has been there for many years. So they are good in this. Some light metal processing, textile, food industry, food and beverages. But I think that manufacturing sector in Norway is relatively small. They outsource and use other factories in other countries to produce stuff. But it's a well developed part of the economy. Also in the north of Norway, they are now putting a lot of efforts, like above the polar, above the Arctic Circle. They put a lot of efforts into building factories that will produce batteries for like electric vehicles, but also that can be used in the production sector to have the production chain is more sustainable and not to rely on oil and gas in the production, or coal, for example, in the production sector. So these are the main industries in Norway, and as I said, the manufacturing sector is relatively small, and this is where Ukraine can actually play a crucial role, and this is what we are also working with and trying to develop. Norway is a free market with government intervention. So the government controls some key areas. For example, the petroleum sector is controlled by the government. We'll also talk a little bit more about wine. It's also controlled by the government. Everything that has more than 4.7% of alcohol can be bought in special stores, which called Vinmonopolet. And this is also where Ukrainian wine could come in, and we'll mention that briefly later on. Norway is not a part of the European Union, but is linked to the European Union through this EEA, European Economic Area Agreement. It's practically part of the EU single market, except for fisheries and agriculture. There are some special agreements. And Norway, in general, is when it comes to agriculture, it's protecting its own farmers, and I think that's also something that our chamber should work more with, to open up a better conditions for Ukrainian products, for Ukrainian food, because Norway needs that. It's only 3% of the country can be used for agriculture, so it relies on other countries, and Ukraine can play also a critical role here. And also important to mention that Norway joined the European Union sanctions against Russia with the economic focus, so they stopped buying Russian goods, and this is also something that can open up opportunities for Ukrainian goods. They can replace the Russian goods on the Norwegian shelves, and the only case I've been working with, there was a little bit, I must say, both interesting and people were skeptical to it. It was a request to buy Ukrainian firewood. And Ukraine needs firewood inside the country, so now it's added to the list of the goods that cannot be exported. But interesting enough that Norway, even though Norway has a lot of own forest and it supplies own market a lot, 80% if I'm not mistaken, it still buys some firewood from abroad, and they were very interested in buying Ukrainian firewood. But unfortunately, it's not possible now due to limitations, export limitations. I know that some food items on the Birte from Russia. Anything that you can add to that?
Well, we've got a lot of interest from Norwegian, actually quite big players in this industry, and they want to, they took away all of the products from Russia from their shelves, most stores, and they said initially that they wanted to replace them with Ukrainian goods. So there are a lot of Norwegian stores and buyers interested in getting in touch with Ukrainian producers.
So this is where the small Ukrainian enterprises can also play a crucial role. All right, so we have a picture of Norway, like what industries are the main in the country, but who are the Norwegian consumer? And I think that it's also important to understand before you start selling your goods to Norway, you need to understand who is going to buy your goods in Norway. And I would say that Norwegian consumer feels very protected. There is this Forbrukerrådet, it's the consumer council that has been started in 1950s by the Norwegian government, and it's the main role is to protect the consumer rights, and it helps with some legal disputes between consumers and businesses. And every year there are thousands of these disputes that they can help for free. So the Norwegian consumer knows that they have this huge organization behind them that can protect them, and also this council works within legislation, creating a better legislation for the consumer and to make the market consumer friendly. So they know that they are protected, and then they demand that the stores and everyone who sells stuff, they provide quality. They are, I would say, and my experience is that they are very conservative and brand conscious. And for example, I was in contact with a Ukrainian lady who has a clothes store in Norway, and I was very surprised. It was many years ago, and I was very surprised that she didn't have any Ukrainian brand in her store. I would assume that if you're Ukrainian moving to a new country, you would open a store and maybe like help to promote some Ukrainian brands, but they were none. So I asked her why, and her answer was pretty simple, is that Norwegians, when it comes to, for example, clothes and brands, they're very conscious. They prefer known brands. Like, for example, in her store, there was mostly like Levi's and Nikes and Puma, because they know that this is something new, this is something known, and this is something they can rely on. It doesn't matter that there is no place for new brands. It just means that new brands who want to come to this market need to be creative and kind of build their reputation and build their name among Norwegians who are conservative. So this is something to think about before you want to expand to this market. The other sector would be, or the other focus would be on quality. They are, as the purchasing power is high, they're also willing to pay for the product if that meets, if the product meets their expectations on quality and performance. And Birte, you're Norwegian, you can disagree or agree with me if that's something that is true. That was my observation and my experience when I work with Norwegians.
I can say that it feels familiar.
It feels familiar. Good. Also, the environmental and social awareness is growing, and that's, I think it's also because there are a lot of organizations working with that. They're bringing awareness, and they're working with increasing this awareness among Norwegians. And also there is a strong emphasis on health and wellness. Norwegians like jogging and walking in the mountains. I feel like it's also because of the environment they grew up in. Sometimes maybe in small places it's not that much to do, so that they go for a walk in the mountains, but they also through years learned how to enjoy it, and there is a lot of emphasis on that. So sports clothes, like some healthy bars, I think that's something that has a lot of potential on the Norwegian market. If you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me or put your question in the chat box, and we'll stop and discuss. All right, so when we know who the Norwegian consumer is and that they are like conservative, they focus on quality, they put emphasis on environmental and social awareness, we can then talk about the Norwegian business partner, because those are the companies and those are the partners that you will have access to this Norwegian consumer through. And a lot of cooperations between Norway and Ukraine start either through private label production. So, for example, a Norwegian brand wants to produce shoes, and they find a factory in Ukraine, and they put their name and use the factory for this work. There is also some cooperation for distribution. For example, the Norwegian store that sells a backpack made in Ukraine with a Ukrainian name. There is also another type. The third type would be the open its own office here or representation, and then sell your goods here through your local representative. I think that all of these types of cooperation have own pros and cons, and of course we'll have to look at your specific case. But I think what is general for everything, what is actually true for every one of this, is that all Norwegians look for long-term relationship. There is a very big focus on life-work balance, so it's not that much working time. They have, and if they invest a lot of time in something, they want it to last long. So it's also influenced the decision-making process. You have to be prepared that everything takes so much time in Norway. For example, when we had a trip of Norwegian companies to Ukraine, we started the first dialogues, we had first meetings, and then the first trial orders would come in like a year or two. So it takes a lot of time. You have to be really patient with the Norwegian business partner. It's also because it takes the decision-making process within the company might take a lot of time. They focus on on consensus. So they would usually involve everyone in the team to give some feedback, and then to collect all this feedback takes time. So that's why the decision-making process is very slow. And it goes without saying that they expect partners to be transparent and deliver what they promised. But I think it's like in every good business environment, and this is what is expected, that you promise, you deliver what you promise, and then you are transparent. But I also think that there is a big focus on transparency, even bigger focus on transparency in the Scandinavian countries, because this is what the Norwegian consumer will ask the Norwegian store, Norwegian company about, like, where are your goods produced, and where did you get them, and so on. A lot of companies have a code of conduct on their website where they write everything about their supply chain. So that's something also to be aware of. Yeah, I think that in general, it takes a lot of time to build this relationship. Also, focus on quality and sustainability. That's something that the Norwegian consumer demands from their companies. I remember that we went to Ukraine with the 10 Norwegian companies within textile and shoes, and we also visited some Ukrainian factories around Ukraine. And while one of the visits, one of the participants wanted to talk to the owner of the factory a little bit more about the working conditions, because she was walking around and people weren't there, so she couldn't see that much of how they worked. And then so she asked, like, how is it to work here on your factory? And the people working on the factory started just laughing, but not because it was funny or anything, but just because they didn't expect this question, and that was their reaction. And they said, well, just walk around and see, and if you meet anyone, you can talk to them and ask them that question. But it wasn't perceived well from the other side. Like, she meant that it wasn't serious and there was nothing to laugh about, and that when her clients ask her something, she has to be sure, and she has to be sure in her response. So this is the information that she needed. And unfortunately, the conversation didn't go further, just because of this small incident that maybe everyone else maybe didn't even notice. So this is something also to think about, is that to take them seriously, but I think it also goes to any business meetings, on any business communication. Cultural fit, and as I say, to conquer Norwegian hearts, you need to find out about their Norwegian business culture. I think to be prepared to that is very important. I already mentioned this book before, Working with Norwegians. It's also, you can find it in Ukrainian. Karin Ellis has also now created a podcast. It's in English, but it's like a little bit over an hour podcast that she kind of gives a short, brief introduction of this book and talks about the Norwegian business culture. I think it's also very good starting point where you can find out about how the meetings go, where to come, how to dress up, and just like some summary of that. I put it also on this slide, and we'll share this presentation with you afterwards, after this event, so you can also go through and read it by yourself and click on the links. But I just want to mention that when it comes to dress code, for example, it's more casual and flexible in Norway. And the funny story would be that once we brought Norwegian tour operators to Ukraine, and usually we would have some program for them, and that program would include some reception at the Norwegian embassy. And every time we bring Norwegians to especially tour operators to Ukraine, we needed to tell them not to come in shorts and flip-flops, and put on some pants at least, and shoes, because they could do that. They could just show up in flip-flops and shorts, while the Ukrainian counterparties would usually dress up and maybe sometimes overdress, or that would seem to the Norwegian participants. So it's you should be aware that dress code is more flexible and casual. It's also the behavior less formal. The hierarchy is not that important. Of course, we generalize here very much. We talk about some small and medium companies when it comes to like political delegations and meetings on the high level. There would be, of course, hierarchy and the dress code would be important. But when we talk about like a little bit lower level, it's not hierarchy is not that important. So you can jump over your boss or manager would, for example, a manager in a Norwegian company would jump over her or his boss to take contact with someone in Ukraine if they have any questions, and it's not perceived rude or anything. It's also to save up time and kind of to avoid this people in between, to this unnecessary links in between. So that's something to be aware of. When it comes to meetings, there should be agenda. So you should always stick to agenda because time is valuable, and yeah, chit chat is good in the beginning, but you have to go straight to the point. If there is a problem, they will always be open about that. Just yeah, be open about. And a good example of that would be a cooperation in textile. Between Norwegian and Ukrainian companies, where Ukrainians were so afraid because they couldn't find some materials that was requested, and then they were looking and using too much time on that. And I told them, just be open and honest with the Norwegian counterparty, and then tell them how it is, and you can discuss your options. And they did it, and Norwegians were willing to change design a little bit just to make sure that some other sort of material would be used in that in their production. So I think that being open and honest is always good. Decision-making process, already mentioned that, takes a lot of time because it's a consensus process. It's a lot of parties and a lot of departments or people in the team will be involved. That takes time to collect feedback. So you should takes time, and you should be patient about that. There are also, I would add, there are also some seasons. There are more busy than the others, and that's probably end of the winter and beginning of the autumn. There are usually a lot of events that Norwegian companies go to, or some exhibitions, trade missions, so they are gone. Summer, July is a season of holidays. Norway just disappears on holidays, so 3 weeks in July. You can look for them in the Norwegian fjords probably, but that's like, it's very hard to do any business in July. Also scheduling meetings after 3 o'clock Norwegian time. It's 4 o'clock Ukrainian time. I think it's acceptable, but not widespread. So it's not popular. Also depends on urgency and depends on the situation. But in general, I think that it's not that typical to have business meetings after 3, 4 o'clock. On Friday, it's even 1, 2. That would be my tip, not to schedule that. And I remember very well one request from Ukrainian company that my Norwegian colleagues, it was before you, Anna Birte, before you started in the chamber, but there was this Ukrainian company that wanted to meet up with us at 6 in the evening. And for me, it was like normal, but my Norwegian colleagues would say 6 in the evening, like at 6. Who is in the office at 6 in the evening? No one works that. So that's also something to be aware of. All right. Some challenges and obstacles, and that's also based on the cases that we worked with directly. That's also based on the request that we got. For example, there was ongoing cooperation between Norwegian and Ukrainian company, and they took contact with us to find out if there was any challenge, to find out what to do. And I think that the biggest challenge and obstacle would be contracts, or it's not a challenge and obstacle. It's something that you should pay attention to when you sign the contract. All the smaller details should be there. What is hard for Norwegians to understand is this Ukrainian tax system. So FOP, перша група, друга група, третя група, спрощена, не спрощена, all these types, it's hard to understand. There was a case when two companies had a contract, and they during the year they increased their cooperation. So there were more orders, but the Ukrainian counterparty couldn't accept payment because they reached the limitations. So they wanted to get the payment on the other bank account of the other FOP in the family, which was not accepted by the Norwegian bank, because you should always have some papers signed between the two parts that will be used as a base for your bank transfer. So this is something to be aware of. And also I think that it's important to think about that when you sign a contract with a Norwegian party, they should understand that you are FOP, for example, because there was a case when a person talked to Norwegian talked to Ukrainian company making windows, and then they talked to a company called, I don't know, window producer, and then the contract was they wanted to sign a contract with FOP Stepankov, and then the Norwegians were like, well, how does that work? Are you FOP Stepankov, or are you the window producer company? So there was also misunderstanding there, so we had to sit down and make contract again. So think about that. At the same time, you should think about advertising activities in Norway. They're very limited, so you can't find that many billboards or like commercials or advertising in public transport, not as much as in Ukraine, for example, and not as much as other countries in Europe. I think that the best way, if you are starting up and you want to promote your brand in Norway, would be go through advertising agents. Or agencies, but there is also like digital advertising and media advertising, like papers, newspapers, online or offline. I think that that's the way to go, because Norwegians like reading media and newspapers, and that's where a lot of companies put their advertisement. Food markets. If you work within food industry, or wine or drinks or beverages on alcohol beverages, I think there are also special rules in Norway for them, and they're controlled in a special way, and they are structured in a special way. Maybe Anne Birte can add something to that.
Mm-hmm. First, I wanted to say that hearing about Norwegian culture and Norwegian behavior is very interesting to hear from like the Ukrainian perspective, and I can attest to what she says. Especially regarding the brand, like attention to brands. And this is very important and might make it difficult for other like new producers to enter the Norwegian market. This also goes for food and drinks. So, and also thank you for giving me the challenges and obstacles slide. But I just want to say before I start that I want you to keep in mind that it's not to scare anyone from entering the Norwegian food and drinks market, but I think it's important to know about some of the restrictions and what you will be facing if you plan to enter Norwegian markets. So Vinmonopolet, how many of you have heard about this concept before? The monopoly in selling wine in Norway or in Scandinavia?
And not only wine, but like heavy alcohol and everything that is above 4.7%.
Every alcoholic beverages above 4.75. Nobody heard about it? Okay, so it's very special. We have a monopoly for retailing alcoholic beverages above 4.75%. It's actually the same as in Sweden and Finland. So I think we're like the only countries that has this monopoly. So the state-owned company Vinmonopolet, which literally means the wine monopoly, is the monopoly in Norway, and it was established already in 1922. The goal is to distribute alcoholic beverages responsibly while limiting the motive of private economic profit in the industry. So the company was established to limit alcohol consumption as part of the Norwegian government's policy. So that's why they wanted to create the monopoly to control everything more. So if you want to supply Vinmonopolet, you must either be a wholesaler registered within the Norwegian Directorate of Customs and Excise as liable for excise duty or have a license to produce alcoholic beverages in Norway. As a Ukrainian producer, more relevant is to like get in contact with a wholesaler in Norway that has experience with Vinmonopol's purchasing procedures. So usually the Ukrainian producer will get in touch with a Norwegian importer, and then the importer will do the purchasing procedure with Vinmonopolet.
Goes also for strong beers or
Yes.
any other like vodka and any other type of alcoholic beverages.
Only like light beers is possible to sell in the grocery stores. Yes, but on the positive side, Vinmonopol's tenders are always neutral in the sense that there is no favoritism between brands. And this goes for what we talked about with the brand focus on brands in Norway. So there is no favoritism between brands, producers, countries, or suppliers, because the testing that the experts does is a blind taste. The only thing they think about is price, quality, and the customer demand. So there should be a possibility for Ukrainian producers to enter, actually.
And also the other way to go into the Norwegian market, it goes for both alcoholic beverages or beverages in general, also food, is to go through Horeca. I know that there were cases from, for example, wines and food from Albania. There was also a case of Ukrainian honey. So they went through a hotel chain in Norway, and then introduced that to these hotels first, and then went through that to Vinmonopol and other actors that could be interested in their products. So that's alternative way,
and maybe an easier way in to start with.
As well as in Norway, you have a lot of foreign stores. There is one store that sells Eastern European products called Ecomarket, and they now a chain in different big cities of Norway. And then they're a little bit more independent, and they can decide themselves what products they want to buy. They also focused on Eastern European consumer in Norway, so you have a lot of foreigners buying there. Hrečka and zhushonka. So that's what the Ukrainians always looking for in Norway. So that's also a way to go through for people or for Ukrainian companies who want to sell food and snacks, for example, to Norway. There are many more. Ecomarket is just famous among Ukrainian consumers here or Eastern European consumers, but there are, of course, more stores and with more focus. So this is something to check out.
And usually in this kind of stores, there are more options and less focus on the brands. So
absolutely,
probably an easier way in for Ukrainian small, medium producers.
Absolutely.
So, and we were talking briefly about marketing in Norway, and for alcohol, it's prohibited to do any marketing for alcoholic beverages above 2.5%. So basically, very difficult to brand your products. And the taxes is also very high for alcoholic beverages in Norway. It's even much higher than in Sweden, which also has this monopoly, but they have lower taxes than in Norway.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anne-Birte. So that's Anne-Birte works with foods and drinks. So if you have any questions, you can contact her. We can look also into your particular case. As I mentioned, that all the cases are different, and then it's we need to look into your specific scenario or your specific product and find a niche for your specific product.
And also grocery market is different than elsewhere in Europe. So we don't have a monopoly in this industry, but we have oligopoly. We have the Norwegian grocery market is the most concentrated in Europe. We only have 3 retail groups, big players. We have Norgesgruppen, which has a market share of 44% in 2021. I don't have the numbers for 2022. And then we have Coop with 29.7% share, and Reitan-gruppen with 22.9.
Mm.
So, and then there is one smaller, which has like 3%. And each of the three groups has like closed vertical systems, and the vertical integration continues backwards into the value chain. So as an example, the biggest player, Norgesgruppen, that I mentioned, has several brands of their own through Unil, and they're like Norgesgruppen's brand hub. So they're responsible for product development, quality assurance, purchasing, imports, marketing, and branding, basically like all of the steps. And usually the easiest way for Ukrainian producers to enter the grocery market, from our experience, is to enter with like white label production, for example, through Unil.
So, for example, Chumak would make ketchup for Unil brand for the Norwegian market. This is one of the examples, but they also have textile, some simple textile like socks, for example, or underwear. They have like paper plates and cups and candles, and I mean a lot of different products, and in addition to food brands.
And I think actually Chumak has been in one of the tenders with Norgesgruppen before. And also in the groceries industry, there are restrictive measures from the government side, similar to as in the wine or like beverages industry, to protect Norwegian producers and farmers. And this is like very strong in Norway. It's a very protective economy in this sense. So, and to protect Norwegian producers and farmers, that was actually one of the main arguments when Norway did not want to enter the EU when we had the voting several years ago. It was to protect the local production, like competition-wise. So this is also like something that will, like the reason behind the high taxes in some goods. We also have like seasonable taxes on berries to protect Norwegian berry farmers. So very concrete and like quite restrictive measures in this sense. But I don't want this to be like a negative focus, because I think there is definitely potential. And we feel that there is an increased interest from Norwegian side to get in touch with Ukrainian producers. So please get in touch. We'll be happy to cooperate and try to find a Norwegian business partner.
Yeah, it's all about finding your niche and defining your strong sides. Maybe Norway, protects its own producer and farmer, but maybe they don't have whatever you have to offer. Maybe they don't have it here internally, and they would be willing to cooperate with you. So as we said, it's all about finding your niche, and it's all about looking at your particular case to help you on the way. All right, from the challenges and obstacles to some business ethics, but we briefly talked about that before, but I think that it goes to any European or any good business cooperation. That's something that where you're transparent. You, for example, if you're using some external materials, or you should be open about that. It would be very nice if you could have like code of conduct or any annual reports or anything that it's not required legally, but I think it's a good sign for the potential Norwegian partner that you have something that you use to show your whole supply chain, that you show like how you work. So this is definitely a positive side, and a lot of Norwegians ask about that directly. So if you hear this question, like if you have annual report or code of conduct, you should be ready for that. If you don't have it, just be open and then say you don't have it, but it would be nice to have it before you start negotiations. Take social responsibility seriously. That's the example of Ukrainians laughing when the Norwegians ask if it's nice to work in their factory. So take it seriously. Also, it's very much appreciated if you're a specialist in a narrow sphere, because sometimes we have a request from the Norwegian part, and then we ask Ukrainians, can you produce this? And 95% of Ukrainians will say, yes, we can, in all the questions. And then when it comes to the details, we find out that they actually cannot because they need some additional equipment and so on. So be realistic and show whatever you can produce right in the beginning. And if you cannot do that, you cannot have that type of product, just be also open about that. And have a good, you should have good references. And that's something that Norwegians always ask if you have any European references. And this is also something where our Norwegian Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce comes in and plays a role. In the beginning, I mentioned that we have members, Norwegian and Ukrainian members, also other companies not established in Norway or Ukraine, but not that many. It's the membership fees are only for the Norwegian companies. So Ukrainian, it's free for Ukrainian companies to be members in our organization, but it also gives you access to the networking meetings that we have, conferences, but also you can get a good and positive reference from us whenever we, for example, help you on the way to get in touch with a Norwegian customer or potential Norwegian partner. They ask us to maybe do some basic due diligence, or if we like been cooperating on any activities, we can say that this is a reliable company, and we would, for example, we would recommend for this company for cooperation. So having good references is always important. If you have any smaller projects or activities with any international partners, ask them for a reference. Ask them for a very short paper. You never know whenever you can use it, whenever you need to use it. Even if you have some collaboration inside Ukraine, also make sure that you get something on paper. Like it can be short. It can be just like a 1-page A4 with the logo of the other partner that says, we worked, we know this company, and we would recommend that everything went fine. That helps a lot when you already get into a negotiation process. But before you get into the negotiation process, you probably wonder, like, where do I find these Norwegians, and how do I start this negotiation and this communication? And I think the easiest would be, of course, to join the chamber, because we have, especially now, we have a lot of activities in Norway. So we are working, since it's a little bit hard to travel to Ukraine and have any conferences, networking meetings in Ukraine. We now organize roadshows in Norway, and we are planning one roadshow like that for Ukrainian SMEs for this spring. So please keep in touch, and we'll update you on that. I think it would be the easiest would be to join the chamber, but we are not the only chamber in Norway. There are many more. There are Polish Norwegian, I mean, like the Entrepreneurship and Export Promotion Office. They help to also to have these trade missions to Norway. So use this organizations that are either in Ukraine working outside of Ukraine, or for example bilateral chambers and organizations. There are other chambers, and for example Oslo Chamber of Commerce, and different regions have own chambers. For example, Bergen Chamber of Commerce, Trondheim. So big cities have own these business centers that organize events that are very, very often for free, where you can network. And it's very important to have a relationship in Norway to become a good business partner. It takes time, but whenever you're already in the circle, it's the chance that you will be cooperating for many, many years is very, very high. So networking, exhibitions, and conferences. I will, on the next slide, will show you some examples of conferences and exhibitions for those who work in with clothes, textile, with furniture, and so on. There is like a stereotype in the world that Norwegians are cold and very hard to build the connections with. They don't like sitting next to each other on buses. So whenever you come on the bus, you see this like one row of people just sitting at the window and then having a free seat next to them. And I remember my first trip back home to Ukraine after living in Norway for a year. I had a opposite cultural shock. I came to Lviv, and I went on the tram like very late at night. It was like one of the latest trams, and it was empty. So I got a spot. I sat next to the window, and on the next stop, there is this old lady came into the tram and sat next to me, and I was like, why? You had the whole tram empty. Why do you sit next to me? So there is this stereotype that Norwegians are a little bit cold and hard to build relationship with. But at the same time, I feel like with this globalization and international experience, it's even better to use this cold emails and calls because they don't expect it. So whenever you call them, they're like, okay, they will remember you.
Mhm.
And I have some good examples of Ukrainian companies who just called Norwegians, and then Norwegians were like, okay, this is something new. Like we don't work usually in this ways, but let's try. So don't be afraid of that. Cold emails and calls sometimes work. Not always, of course. It's not a magic way to cooperate, but it's sometimes it works, so don't exclude it. And now I feel like, especially for those working with textile, there are a lot of influencers and agents in Norway, and I think this is something we also as a chamber should explore more, because people generally want to help Ukraine, and they understand that supporting Ukrainian brands is one way of keeping Ukrainian economy going and bringing this victory closer. So they are willing to support, and for example, dialogue with influencers and agents, and especially in textile industry, is also one way to go. We unfortunately don't have that much experience, but I think this is also something for us to try, and idea for you to try. If I'm pretty sure if you Google influencers or agents, the fashion agents in Norway, you would get like a list or a sort of website or platforms where you can actually get in touch with them. But also Instagram, I mean, like smaller, there are also Ukrainians who live in Norway who kind of started this blogs and profiles about life in Norway, and they have like 10, 15, 20,000 people following them. And sometimes it's also a very good way to start kind of promoting your Ukrainian product in Norway. It's of course, smaller market, but this is a good start for a small and medium enterprise. All right, so this website where I collected all the links, this slide looks very chaotic, but it's a lot of I think valuable information here. There is this forum or this location called Nova Spectrum. They are one of the biggest Norwegian organizer of exhibitions. Their exhibition center is located around 10 minutes by train from Oslo, and they have exhibitions in all the possible sectors. And one of the sectors that on one of the exhibitions that we were involved is Oslo Design Fair. And Oslo Design Fair, it's a lot of furniture, but not only. It's a lot of furniture and interior design. It's also a lot of for example, cups and plates and some like niche products from design and furniture. So if you are working in that sector, this is definitely something to look into. I just want also to say that it's not as big as, for example, Stockholm Design Fair or like the Stockholm Furniture Fair, which is like huge. But at the same time, the one in Stockholm has so many demands. Like it's like so complicated. You need to have like really big stand, and it's of course expensive. The Norwegian one is more simple, and it's easy. Like it's easier to get access to that. They're not that demanding into what companies they take in. I think take in basically everyone who wants to participate and has, of course, budget for that. Last year we had this collective stand of Ukrainian furniture. Was Ukraine stand for Ukrainian furniture manufacturers. We're looking into that this year as well, the possibility to participate. So if you if you are interested, please let me know. The next fair, or the fair that we're planning to attend, is in the end of August, but we would like to start preparation already in a week or two. So this is something, if it's something for you, please check out their website, and then let's do something together. Let's create this nice Ukrainian stand and tell the Norwegians that Ukraine has a strong product to offer. And actually was a very good participation last year, where we got a positive feedback, and there were a lot of Danish companies present, and they didn't believe that there was Ukrainian product or furniture produced in Ukraine, because they thought, they were so convinced it's Danish company or Danish design. And that was not Danish design, that was Ukrainian designed and fully made in Ukraine. So this is something that can be interesting for you, as I saw a lot of people work with furniture and interior design items. There is also Fashion Week. We never had the Ukraine stand there, but they have possibilities for pop-up stands, or they have also, all these exhibitions have side program. So I think that to kind of build network and to get acquainted with the market, it's nice to actually come there in person and visit the programs. A lot of those programs are in English, since they try to be international. So check it out. There is also Oslo Runway, that is maybe more focused on supporting Norwegian brands, but at the same time, I think that one of the ways to get involved can be like a collaboration with the Norwegian brand. And I think that Ukraine is now getting popular, more and more popular. More and more popular, so it's a good way to kind of get in touch and visit these events now. We have this Oslo Innovation Hub in the city of in the center of the city, and every Friday they organize a network, like Social Friday network. This is event for foreigners. It's in English, and you can attend it. I think it's also free. So if you want to kind of start building your connections in Norway, and then this is all people who are business minded and have interest in entrepreneurship. This is also an event that you should, or organization hub you should check out. If you are, for example, working with cosmetics or food or anything like plant-based, for example, furniture, and then you're wondering if you need any special certificate to bring your product to Norway or to start exporting, Mattilsynet would be the institution to go to, because this is they are the governmental institution that have responsibility and border control for everything that comes in Norway, and which has with food, plants, animals to do. And on their website, I already checked, they have in English, they have this guide for if you're planning to sell food or cosmetics to Norway from abroad. So this is definitely worth checking. Eventbrite website has this list of networking events. Very often they are free, and very often they are in Oslo or around. So if you're, for example, planning a road show in Europe, just to go and check out your possibilities, this is also a way to find those networking meetings. You can also get in contact with us and get information about that from us. But on Eventbrite, this is a platform where they actually publish all these events happening. Innovation Norway is something that you should know about. This is a huge governmental institution that supports innovative projects and business projects, and they have different schemes for financing. They are not working with Ukraine directly now. They have this program called Norway Grants, and that's for 15 countries in Europe. Ukraine, unfortunately, is not a part of that for now. But for example, if you have a Polish partner, Poland is a part of this program. This is kind of a way to find finances and grants. If you have a Czech, for example, or Romanian partner, this is also can be a way to go. And we're working actively to get Ukraine on the list. It's, as you already know, everything takes a lot of time in Norway, but we are trying to push them for that. So maybe one day you'll also see Ukraine on that list. But check it out. Maybe that's something that is relevant to your company already. If not, keep it in mind and come back in a year, for example, to see if Ukraine is already on the list. So as I mentioned, we will of course distribute this presentation so you can click around and look and get acquainted. Other practicalities. Something that came up in our cooperation between Ukraine and Norwegian companies is return guarantee, and that was also kind of relevant for all the sectors, textile, metal production, and so on. This is a question that we got from the Norwegian parties that ask, for example, if they receive anything from Ukraine and it's not in the quality expected, is there any guarantee that they can return these goods? For example, if they order metal doors and they are like scratched, or they can be used in the project, is there any like a strategy or any policy to return the goods? And we don't say that it's necessary to have, but this is a question that you might potentially get, and you need to think about what you can answer to that question. Some companies have it, some companies don't have it, and I think that's also a reason why Norwegians go for famous brands. That's also because the stores sell them, and it is because the brands have this return guarantee policy. So when the store gets something that they, or for example, the Norwegian customer brings something back, shoes, to the store, and the shoes had 2 years guarantee, and then something goes wrong, they return the shoes, the store has to do something with the shoes, so they usually want to give it back to the producer, but of course there is understanding that not everyone will accept that back. But this is something also to think about, and this is what that came up in 3 different projects in 3 different sectors. So I assume that this is a question to keep in mind. I know that there is export credit agency in Ukraine. This is something that came up recently and becomes more relevant recently. We were in contact with them before, and I think that my colleagues are also working now with them more often. This is an agency that supports Ukrainian exporters, and they have different also ways to kind of finance their projects. So please check it out and to see maybe you can find something useful or some ideas how to kind of sponsor your export to Norway. And then logistics is always a question, like how to send my goods to Norway. And I must say that this is probably one of those few positive things that happened after February 2022, that the logistics between Norway and Ukraine improved drastically. There are more companies driving between Norway and Ukraine. Norway is in this corner. No one wanted to go like to drive from Ukraine with a truck if you don't have like the whole truck full of goods. So there was pain before. Now it's a little bit better because it's a lot of both humanitarian help going back and forth, and it's more, of course, more Scandinavian companies supporting and buying from Ukraine. So it's more traffic going back and forth. So if you for example start your cooperation and you need recommendation, we have a bunch of companies that we have good experience with and been cooperating, and so we can recommend and to help you to find someone. This is also what we work actively with. Yes. What's next, right? So it's a lot of questions, probably some new information for you. Probably you already heard this from before, but I hope that you at least found something useful here. I would recommend to, of course, check it out and join our chamber for future to get updated on future events. It doesn't cost anything, as I mentioned, for Ukrainian companies for now. Usually there are some symbolic membership fees depending on how big your company is, but for small businesses it's like 120 euros per year, but it was before the war, before the full-scale invasion. Now it's free until further notice, but I think that 2023 is going to be free. So join us or any other international organization, find the networking events, start building connections here. Check tenders if you are, of course, able. Those tenders are usually like big, they require volume, but if your production is if you are able to scale up the production or you're already producing in big volumes, check the tenders. All the official state kind of institutions like schools, hospitals, and so on, they usually have the standards, and then you can sort them by country, sector, place of delivery, buyer. When I was checking the standards, for example, tendering, I saw that there is this town not far from Anne Birte's hometown was tendering for furniture for school. This is something that is like big in volume and a good opportunity to kind of to get acquainted with the Norwegian market. But there are also Dauphin, Marcel, so check it out. Please click and find information. Maybe there's something interesting for you. Join our program. We will open applications in spring 2023. Young entrepreneurs, you can also Google and check on our website. This is something that I think could be useful if you are willing to expand to the Norwegian market, because this is the starting point. And that's where you actually get connections and tools, and specifically for the Norwegian, and also get the chance to kind of try it out, your idea. For example, last year we had different groups, and one of the participants, she's making healthy snacks, and so she got a chance to travel to Norway, and actually in free time, for example, could go to the stores and present her product, and then get some feedback or talk to the Norwegian friends or new friends, participants, and then see and find out how she can move with her specific product in her specific company. Also, I promised you a little trick or something that I'm using when I look for Norwegian companies. And it's a website called proof.no. It's kind of you control, but open, and you don't have, I think there are some services that you need to pay for, but it's more or less open. And then you can like check the profile of the company like that, like do some very basic due diligence on Norwegian companies. And when you go to this website, I'm not sure if I can share it with you now. Probably not. You can see my screen. That's a second. When you go to the website, here, it's of course in Norwegian, or Scandinavian languages or Nordic languages, but I mean Google Translate can help. When you go to this website, you can go to segmentering, and when you find, just Google any Norwegian company, the name of the Norwegian company, you can also check here their economic code, like the KVAD, Ukrainian KVAD, but in Norway. And you can also find, for example, a sector they work with. You can find, for example, let's see, batteries. Someone who produces or works or sells batteries. You can find where they are located, in the north, in the west of Norway. So you can actually get a list, let's say batteries in the north of Norway. You can actually get this list of companies that can be relevant for you. And then when you click on the company, you can get their address, you can their phone number, you can get their sometimes email, you can get their names of people who are in the leadership, you can connect with them on LinkedIn, and so on. And this is something I've been using for some time to kind of map Norway for some specific Ukrainian project, or for example, Ukrainian company producing these types of furniture, and then looking for someone who can be relevant for them in Norway. So might be an idea for you to also check it out. I am done for today. This was like, I hope this was a good starting point for you to find out about Norway and get some tips. I'm very thankful for all these comments in the chat and your presentations. Anna Birte has been sitting here and putting all the notes, the companies and the email addresses, so we will have a good overview. We have some time for questions, so I think that we can start with that. And I see one hand from Mariana Kravchenko. Hello, Mariana. Thank you for joining us. Do you have a question or comment?
Yes, hello. Thank you for the presentation. All the details from the mentality and including the real approach for networking, cold calls, so everything was told. So thank you very much for this. And for such a, I don't know, for such short time, a lot of information is really a talent. So what I wanted to ask, based on the information that you told, for example, you invite to, sorry, do you see me well? I think that something is not okay. Okay. For example, if we enter this Norwegian Ukrainian commercial pallet chamber, yeah. So is there any possibility not only like to be present on networking events like you organize, but also some kind, I don't know, like references that probably you send to customers? Because, for example, our product, it is used almost in every retail sphere, but not as a product that is sold, but as user. They use it for their operations, yeah? And there are such spheres a lot of. So, for example, VIA would be very interested in such recommendations, because like cold calls, I think you need to have database for these cold calls, and you also have how to say, not everybody connect you with responsible person, so these recommendations would be more workable.
Yes, absolutely. And we have experience with that as well. For example, of course, we are not like a trade agent. So we are not like promoting one company and then looking for clients for this company. So the company has to do homework, but they can come back to us with a list. For example, these are the 20 top companies that we think would be relevant for us. Could you help us to get in contact with them? And then we on our side can take contact with these companies and then ask them if they are interested, if they are like there is anything, any like potential, like just even start dialogue, if they would be interested in meeting with Ukrainians. We have experience with that. But as I say, it's very important that Ukrainians do themselves the homework. So they find a map Norway, come up with some names. You can also maybe not 20, at least 5. We can also check this proof database and then find similar other Norwegian companies with similar profiles, and then help them to either find exhibitions where this company participate and then meet them there, or take contact directly, like have this cold call or email from us. I also feel like we have a pretty good standing and in Norway as well, and especially now when everyone wants to support Ukraine and they don't know how, and then we come with a concrete suggestion. This is the way to support. For example, could you meet up with the Ukrainian company? And then we organize a call, and then it's of course up to Ukrainians to make everything, to pitch their product and their service or idea, and we on our side of course would help as much as we can.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, we sometimes also organize within my project like this niche specific networking events, for example, furniture manufacturers, where we invite Norwegian like retailers and stores and people who want to produce something in Ukraine and Ukrainians, and have it like a little bit in cozy format as today. So not that many people, so that we would have access to have chance to actually talk to as many as possible. We are, for example, now bringing some Norwegian companies to this Warsaw event, this Build Ukraine conference. Those Norwegian companies are working with building, like building and construction, and they would like to, in partnership with Ukrainians, maybe have some, for example, rebuild schools or hospitals or universities in Ukraine later on. And I think it's they're looking for any contacts now. So for example, if you're somehow connected to building sector, it's a good chance to actually, for example, meet us in Warsaw and join. We are going to have a networking dinner, and we're going to have networking lunch. And that's where we are going to gather all the Norwegians who are interested in Ukraine, and also Ukrainians who might be relevant for these Norwegians. That's also something we can do. But definitely, I put my email address is very easy. I'll put it in the comment section. please make sure to, if you have already any companies, Norwegian companies in your mind, or you are willing to do the homework and come up with the research and map Norway and find this Norwegian companies that are relevant for you and you want to start cooperation, you can always kind of connect us as well to this dialogue, and we'll see what we can do from our side. I don't want to promise you too much and then say that this is the way to go and we will fix everything for you, but I think that having a Norwegian Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce that is supported by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Norway gives some weight, and it's then more than just cold email and call, but it also kind of provides some referencing, which is important in Norway, and we can also, for example, look at your specific case and then maybe already have some tips how we can help. Any other questions or comments? If not, my email address in the chat. You can copy it and save it. We also saved all the information that was provided in the chat. Anna Birta also put her name. It's much longer than mine, I can see now. So please feel free to reach out if you have any concrete case on manufacturing goods for me, and then food and drinks, Anna Birta. Next week, next Tuesday, we'll go a little bit deeper into consumer behavior. We invited a representative for Proneo. It's a big organization. They work mostly with the Norwegian businesses, and then they help companies and startups to kind of build their business strategy and model. They have very many interesting cases, and I asked them to share them with you. For example, why this type of soda is not good for Norway. For example, raspberry soda is not that popular in Norway, but ginger soda would be popular because it fits well with the local cuisine in some regions. So I asked them to share cases like this. Interesting that the interesting cases from the companies who started their business and they were building their business strategy for the Norwegian market. And I think it's also would be interesting for Ukrainian companies to hear about and learn how they can approach and build a strategy for the Norwegian market. So if today was interesting and you would like to find even more, so please join us. It's the same link at the same time in a week on the 14th of February. So we'll spend Valentine's Day also together. I would like to say thank you everyone who joined for your time. Thank you, Katarina, for partnership. Thank you, Entrepreneurship and Export Promotion Office, as well as Alexander from the embassy. This was our kickoff. We are planning more events and activities within this direction. So let's keep in touch. And I hope to see you in a week.